Hey everyone, I'm Kathryn Kellogg. Welcome back to another part in our series, Recycling is Broken. This is video 3. Will there be a video 4? I don't know yet, but we're gonna get started and talk about all the different materials for recycling. So I figure I should probably mention this at some point, but I wrote a book. Yeah, this is my book. I'm very excited about it. And it is plastic free. It's a plastic free book. It is printed on recycled paper because, remember, are we truly recycling if we don't buy recycled products? Recycled product. I do have an entire thing in here that is all about recycling the right way. And it is called The Ultimate Guide to Recycling. As we recycle, we should be trying to do it correctly and properly. So in the last video, we talked about making sure we go onto our waste management's website, we see actually what they accept, and make sure that we're placing not only the correct item in the correct bin, but also that we're making sure that we place the correct item the correct way, because that's how contamination happens. I was at a conference in February, very, very early February, very, very late January. And I was invited by Waste Management. It was for they had a huge sustainability forum, which was absolutely amazing. I will link to the blog post. They did a whole thing about wish cycling. And that's when you put something in your recycling bin, wishing that it would be recycled, even though it won't be. And they talked about a lot of the items they get in the bin that are wish cycled items, like batteries. Don't put your batteries in the recycle bin. They will explode and they will endanger workers. And that's not cool. A lot of our recycling is sorted by hand. So remember, if you wouldn't want to grab this item by your hand, don't put it in there. Dead animals get put in the recycling bin, which is just mind-blowing to me. Garden hoses, Christmas lights, bowling balls. They have had a lot of bowling balls recycled. Actually, it's an insane number of bowling balls, and I'm gonna put the stat up here because it's just crazy. You can't recycle a bowling ball. So it's just really important that we pay attention to the materials that we are putting inside of our recycle bins. And I wanna talk about the 4 most common items that are gonna be found that you're gonna put in your recycling bin, which are paper products, glass products, metal objects like aluminum cans and steel tins, and then of course, plastic. We talked a bit about plastic in the first video, so I will also link to all the other previous videos down below. So number 1, I don't remember which one I said first, glass. We're gonna go with glass. So glass can be recycled. Glass has 100% recycle rate. However, glass is difficult to recycle. And this might be really hard to believe, but depending on where you are in your current waste management facility and how they handle glass, sometimes if you're not going to be reusing that glass jar, it might be better to actually opt for a plastic one. Recycling is complicated, and a lot of places actually take glass and they crush it and they use it as landfill cover. So they're not actually recycling it, they're just putting it on top of the landfill, because every single night once the trash comes in, they put it and they bulldoze over it, they flatten it, and then to prevent anything from combusting or going wrong, they put landfill cover on top. This prevents oxygen from getting in and possibly lighting anything on fire. There's also more to it, but very, very, very simplified reason of why sometimes your glass might not actually be recycled. And what blows my mind about this even more is that the sand used to make glass, we're running out of it. We're running out of the sand that's used to make glass and to make silicone. You think that, the beach is just full of sand, but it's actually a different type of sand that's used. So you think that we'd be wanting to recycle this material. And I know in other countries, they actually separate glass recycling out by color, but we don't do that. And another issue with glass is, I know that we lived in a time before plastic, and a lot of people are just like, why can't we go back? Because life is different. We can't go back. Also, I don't hate plastic. Plastic's great. Plastic's an awesome material for medical devices, technology. If you have to have an open heart surgery, you better be damn thankful for plastic, because plastic is gonna save your life. I don't hate plastic. I don't particularly love the way that we're currently using it, and the fact that we use it for items that are only gonna last for 15 minutes, right? How long does it take you to drink your water bottle and then toss it? That doesn't make much sense because it is a material that will last forever, so we should be using it differently. Also has a lot of other problems, like the fact that it's toxic, the fact that when it does get into waterways or out into the environment, it never actually goes away. It only breaks down into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces until it's so microscopic. It's in current drinking water worldwide. 84% of all drinking water worldwide is contaminated with microplastic particles. Clothing, polyester, acrylic, all of that stuff sheds microplastic particles in the wash. An average load of clothes in the United States, 700,000 microplastic pieces shed with every single wash. That's crazy. That's crazy. I did a whole video on this about microplastics, the dirty secret in your washing machine. And so we have to find better materials, and we have to have stronger and better legislation when it comes to plastic, because plastic also isn't really truly recyclable. You can't take a plastic water bottle, melt it down, and turn it into a new plastic water bottle. I mean, theoretically you can, but it's not practical. It's not practical to do that. So all of the plastic bottles that we're recycling are actually being downcycled into things like clothing, which is why we have this whole problem with shedding in the washing machine. Of course, you can do it into carpets, which is also a problem because it's off-gassing in your home and it's toxic. You can also use it to make things like park benches or, play equipment, which is a pretty good use for it, I think. But then, of course, at the end of its useful life, it will also be going to the landfill. So it's like one stop before you get to the landfill. Plastic story. I think I skipped over paper, but it's just hard, It's really hard to be recycling this material, which is why it is so important that we first focus on reduce and reuse. Paper, we talked a bit about paper in the last video. Paper needs to be clean and dry. Anything over the size of a Post-it note shouldn't be put in your recycling bin because it can clog the machines. Make sure your paper is clean, so that means no food stuff. Paper towels, paper tissues, not recyclable. They're compostable, but they are not recyclable because the fibers are too short to be recycled. Things that you can recycle, of course, cardboard, paper, printer paper. You can recycle Post-it notes actually, but you shouldn't recycle anything smaller than that. However, we have so many cardboard boxes. We are drowning in cardboard because we just get everything shipped to us. So I think it would be very, very, very good of you if you have a friend that has a small business or a friend of a friend, save your shipping boxes for them to reuse. That's what I get press packages, I receive things from shipping, and I save all of my boxes for my friend Selena. She owns a consignment store. I give her those boxes, she uses them, she packs her stuff up, and it's a great way that we can keep this cardboard in use for as long as possible. Because remember, what comes before recycle? Reuse. Yeah, you're getting it. Aluminum and steel. So these are actually some of the most, I would say, if I had to pick any material that I was going to be like, that material, aluminum and steel probably would be it. It can go from in your curbside bin to the shelf in 90 days. They have very, very tight, good systems, and steel and aluminum, 100% recyclable without any loss of quality. So you definitely want to make sure that you're recycling your cans and your tins. Mining for metal, not great though. On a scale of waste that we don't see, waste in the upstream, mining for metal, one of the ones that's not super great. So it's why it's so important that we recycle to make sure that we can hopefully drive down the demand for these new materials. If you're having a party and you're not doing growlers for your beer that are reusable, instead, honestly, I would opt for cans of beer because I know that those have a much higher recycle rate than the glass bottles. Even though glass bottles theoretically are recyclable, they don't have quite the same robust system that aluminum and tin cans do. And one other point to finish off a tangent that I did not finish, which is why can't we just go back to the way things are? One of the main reasons is because glass is very, very heavy. So I want you to imagine things being shipped from place to place, because they are. Food doesn't magically appear on the shelves. It's manufactured somewhere and then it has to get somewhere else. Instead of having all the plastic bottles shipped and moved, imagine all the glass bottles being shipped and moved. Now glass is going to be much, much heavier, which means it's going to have a much higher carbon footprint, which is why this isn't just as black and white as don't use plastic, only use glass. Sustainability can be hard because it's so nuanced. Paper has 3 times higher emissions than a plastic bag. Your reusable bag, about 131 times higher emissions. It's one of those things where the root of the problem isn't just going to be solved with one simple, straightforward answer. Instead, we're going to have to use a lot of different smaller things and just make the best decision we can in the moment. This video is getting to be very long. I'm going to do a part 4 on this video about why I have hope for the recycling future, for the future of recycling, and why I don't think this is necessarily the end of the world, and why I actually think it could be a really, really good thing. So please give this video a thumbs up, press that big red subscribe button, and I will see you probably tomorrow with a new video finishing out this series.